Hello there. I'm James Wan,
And I'm Kane Parsons.
and you're listening to the A24 podcast. Kane, buddy, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. How you doing, James?
Good. I'm well as well. So we're here to talk about all things back rooms and everything related to it, and yourself, obviously.
Yeah. I have a lot I can say. It's been a pretty all-consuming like 4-ish years or so now. So
It's been a pretty long journey for you from where you started with the shorts, right?
yeah.
With the first short all the way to now the full-on proper feature film version of it.
Yeah.
Right? It's been quite the journey.
It is changed in ways that I definitely did not expect when I initially posted that short. And I mean, you were present at the very beginning of that. I think if I'm not mistaken, the first time we met, it was over Zoom, and I think you were in post on Aquaman 2.
Right, that sounds.
And you walked in and you were eating a salad, and you said hello, and we talked for like 1 or 2 minutes, and you stepped out. But I think that was the first time.
That was the first time we met via Zoom.
Yes,
and I was eating a salad, or
yes.
one of us was.
It's seared into my brain, and
that's funny.
It's forever my.
That's cool. But then we met in person when you came out to LA to visit us on the set of Night Swim.
Yeah.
Right. I can't remember what year was that.
That was 2023. That was
2023.
April
Okay.
2023. So just like 3 years ago, exactly.
3 years ago. And how old were you when you came to visit us?
Would have been 17.
17.
17
wow.
then.
Amazing. Yeah. So I definitely have a lot of questions I want to ask you, and I guess the best place to possibly start is let's go all the way back. Let's take us back. I would actually go back beyond to what you were doing that led you to your interest in making shorts, in filmmaking in general.
Yeah.
Just I'd love to hear a little bit about your history there and your passion and what kind of got you into all of this.
Yeah, I mean, I try my best to trace it. So I'm sure there's some things that are like results of random subconscious. Of course, like there's going to be some like noise to it that I can't quite pick up. But I know that I've always kind of had a tendency or a bias since childhood to go towards something, a version of creativity in some way. Mm-hmm. And I've had, an upbringing that did not directly like disable that desire. It was like I was able to find ways to do it, mostly through like I was drawing like growing up quite a bit. Like that was a big thing I would spend a lot of time doing, and that would turn into like I eventually got like an old like Digicam camera, and I would like go and like do a little stop motion animation with Lego, and it's like I don't think it was a particularly unique start in that way. It's like it's a pretty common, I guess, like activities as a kid when you want to go in that direction. I remember probably by around the time I was like 9 or so, I had like the term filmmaker was a thing, or director was in my brain enough that I was like, yeah, I like movies. I want to make movies. That's cool. I didn't have like a lot of access to the internet until I was around like 8 or 9 or so.
Like because your parents were keeping you away from the internet.
Yeah, they were smart.
Okay, but it sounds to me like they were very supportive of the kind of things that you were into, right?
Yeah.
And the fact, like you said, that they didn't hold you back and they just kind of let you experiment and play and basically just explore your creativity. So it sounds to me like you were really into, like you were kind of drawn to things that were off the visual arts. Like you were definitely attracted to visual things.
Yeah,
like
visuals.
Drawings.
My brain is very like strictly visual most of the time.
Right.
Like usually like words are visuals in my head rather than actual like sounds and stuff. So it's usually like very just visuals.
So you see things in your head, right?
Very,
you see it and then
very,
you try
very clearly, but I can't
get it out somehow.
For some reason I can't do like written language in my head, but I can only do visuals. So it's like I kind of have
I totally get it
quite a bit.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, so like I know that around that time I had PlayStation 3 and I was very into like I got into Minecraft from my friends, and there was like this game Little Big Planet. Like these are sandbox games where you can like get a lot of create functions, and so I was exploring what it's like to create something under the guise of like technically a 3D program, even though it's inside of like a game engine and it's like oriented as a game. I was sort of like getting the feeling for like, oh, look, I can make a thing and then other people come in and interact with this thing. And then I can kind of upscale the feeling of like, I want to curate this experience more and more. And nothing about this was grand or like hyper compelling because I was like 9 and 10 and, none of this was.
Wow. Okay. So you were doing all this
cool?
around 9 or 10-ish years old.
Yeah. But I guess I would highlight is like, it's no different than what I think most of my peers were doing. Like even people who don't have a desire to go into art fields, it was like, building stuff in Minecraft creative mode was very like
right.
Kind of
so it was just playing almost. For you guys. You were just playing basically, right?
It was playing, and I would take it a little more seriously probably, where like I would like come up with super contrived rules for like some random like sub game we wanted to play or something, and then it was simultaneously watching a lot of VFX driven work on YouTube, like independent YouTubers, like corridor crews sort of stuff, encouraging people to just like, hey, like anyone can kind of, with the right software, you don't even need the good hardware for it, and just like a simple camera, you can do rudimentary VFX work. And I kind of got a bit of an appetite for that, and then I pirated way too much software and got a bunch of viruses and technically doing like some filmmaking stuff on like my parents' phone. And it was kind of like game oriented largely. Like I was really into,
you know what? This is actually good to talk about, because what it does show is your journey to become a filmmaker actually went down two paths, right? Like you were shooting stuff, you were making little things on the side, but also like you were saying, your brain of like being into the technical, like the computing side of things, that then also informs the way you make your little shorts, right? Yeah. So you understanding the computing aspect of filmmaking, of just storytelling in general, and how you would use that to inform the kind of stuff that you would make.
Yeah.
And so that became a big part of what you did, right? You know, like a big part of like, like all that sort of computer language and programming and understanding that you have there, and sort of using that as the visual effects sort of backbones to what you were making your shorts with. And so I think that's really interesting that you didn't actually necessarily go down the path of, hey, I want to be a video game maker. But you sort of stuck to storytelling, filmmaking, but using the craft that you had the passion and you had acquired to kind of assist you in your filmmaking.
Yeah. I mean, like it was around like the beginning of middle school that's when I was, getting the software and trying out After Effects for the first time, and was like doing a bunch of tutorials. And it was mostly like project based, where, I would get excited about a scene or a visual or a moment in my head that I wanted to see exist, but there was nothing surrounding it supporting that moment. So it's like, okay, so now I got to learn how to do these things so I can make that moment. So I got to learn this software. And also like I need to learn how to edit it properly so I can put the right kind of reverb on this music that I'm hearing.
Right.
And like now we need to like build a whole little short film around this moment, just so it makes sense in a context. And then that was kind of like not accidentally, but I kind of just like went through the process a few times with a few different short films when I was, again, like these things they're not on YouTube for a reason. Like I've privated them. But like, I was definitely pretty active doing stuff in any free time I could get. It was like the only thing I would do. Starting in like end of elementary school, it just became a pretty like laser focused sort of obsession. And I think like it was once I really kind of like felt like I was getting a hang of After Effects and like the 3D tools available to me in there, and taking advantage of some student licenses and stuff, then that just kind of became an addiction. And I was like only using
but you enjoy it, right? You enjoy using these programs.
It's so much fun.
It's so funny because I started using After Effects in high school, and I started using it because it was part of my school program and stuff like that, but I kind of got bored of it. Like the technical stuff, I enjoy the technical stuff of filmmaking and doing stuff like this, but I got to a certain point where I'm like, this is just too much for me. I just want to get out there. I just want to get out there and just shoot from the hip and just, kind of, just become a bit more run and gun, right? I found the process a little bit the technical side sometimes a little bit too limiting, at least for me, but clearly you enjoyed it and you embraced it.
Yeah, it's because I think I have a hard time with uncontrollable variables and whatnot. So I think that for me, I enjoy a certain level of run and gun, but I think I am the kind of person who needs to know every single thing about the thing I'm making before any other people are even involved with it, or before anything else before there's a chance for something to get away from me. You know what?
That's a really good trait for a director to have. To be well prepared.
Yeah, of course. But I think like, because I was a kid in middle school, I was doing filmmaking, but it wasn't like serious, like it was inherently, there was like a joke component to what I was doing, but it was like,
you were just playing around. It wasn't a career path yet at that point, right?
Correct. I wasn't thinking about it in that way. I did a few like local level film festivals around that time. And like, so, part of my brain was definitely thinking about it in that way, but I was still thinking like, okay, time to go through high school, and then I'll go to college for film school, and then I don't know what happens after that, but I'll probably make movies. It's like
Right.
some vague notion of that.
So let's talk about that. How in your journey did all of that, what you just stated there, right, led you to your very first short with Backrooms? I'm sure you made a lot of other stuff before that, but how did all this lead to Backrooms?
It was the beginning of the pandemic. I got into Blender. I started teaching myself Blender. I was fortunate enough to have a situation where I was just, blocked at home, and I was doing Zoom classes, and I was able to sort of.
So this was 2020.
2020. Yeah.
And how old were you?
I was 14.
Okay.
I was getting into Blender. Maybe I didn't mention it earlier. I'm a big fan of the Valve properties like Portal and Half-Life, and those majorly informed a lot of my creative sensibilities, I think, growing up. And that was around the time Half-Life Alyx was coming out, and I was wanting to do fan art for that.
Right.
And that got me like really motivated to figure some stuff out in Blender. And then I did some things, and then I was like, wait a minute, now I just kind of know how to use Blender. And so I could start within like 2 weeks or so. Like Blender's really intuitive. When you're young and near software, you're able to kind of pick it up through osmosis kind of like quickly, but I do think it's just genuinely they've streamlined the software in such a way that it is like very accessible. But I started doing that. I made a few films again like that year, but then by 2021 I had gotten back into Attack on Titan, which is obviously a pretty big property around the world, and I was basically adapting set pieces from that into found footage, but it was in like 1930s, 1940s war like film footage of like set pieces inside that world, and those like. That was when my channel actually took off.
Okay, wait, hang on. You were creating images for that, but just inventing, making them up on through Blender or whatever program.
Yeah,
you
like
were
what
using.
I was doing is because it's an anime and manga.
This was like a fan kind of like a short or whatever,
a fan project. So it was an anime and manga, and what I was doing was like a series of these videos. Well, I did one thinking it was going to be one, but then people lost their minds over it, so I started doing more. But it was
That's cool.
Basically, what would it look like? What would an actual honest perspective into that world look like if it was somehow real? So just like, what does a scarier, more realistic approach of just viewing this thing look like? And so that's what I put out using Blender. So it's all things from the series, but just through a slightly different lens.
But was it still animation? Like
like
2D
all
animation,
Blender,
2D,
lots of compositing.
Okay.
So it looked roughly, like hoping you see past the VFX flaws, like the goal being it looks like real, authentic,
but real world, like
from the 30s or 40s,
live action.
Yeah, black and white live action. Like,
cool.
Totally
cool.
like trying to look photoreal.
Right.
And so like that, I'd never had any kind of engagement like that before. It's like the first one did like 10 million views, and like the next one did like another 10 million.
Wow.
It kept like going big, and my channel I think got 200,000 subscribers from that. And then But I did that for all of 2021, and like I was riding a high with it. Like that was really exciting. It was great having like,
you were getting validation from basically fans out there.
Yeah, and it was like motivation to like every week they wanted to do things. So
right.
it was like I was constantly kind of churning stuff out, and that was just fun.
That's cool
because
especially during the lockdown when you didn't really have much.
I certainly found a lot to do during that time, but then I got fatigued by it, and because I used up all the plot points in the series that I could adapt, but people wanted more still, and I was kind of like, okay, well, I kind of want to do other things now. That winter in 2021, I guess for a preamble, I have to do a preamble about like what the Backrooms are, I would assume probably.
Please, yes.
Like,
give us a little bit of history of where all that comes from.
In 2019, there was this 4chan post, which is, totally anonymous. Anything posted there, or at least in this context, is not really traceable. And we can't at this point in time determine who posted any of this, which has been a big defining part of the Backrooms. It's weird. But basically, there was an image posted of a off yellow sort of dingy, it's unclear if it was an office space or the back of a furniture store or what, with just a caption, like a single paragraph caption, basically setting up a concept of, if you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, and no-clip is a video game term for phasing through a solid surface, like out of the world. If you fall out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the Backrooms, which is essentially an essentially endless array of like kind of not quite repeating, but you could think of it as like procedurally generated, or just like you could keep going, walking in any direction, and you'll just be stuck in this world of drop ceiling, this yellow wallpaper that's just kind of like sulfur looking, and
so it's a maze-like world that it just kind of keeps going.
It's a maze-like world that doesn't have an inherent point to it, and I think the idea, what I always appreciated, is that it's just described like it's a natural phenomenon. There's nothing like spiritual or like like morality to it. So it's not like it's a divine judgment. If like if you've done wrong, if you've got guilt harbored, it'll take you away or something. It's just like,
It's not hell.
yeah, it's not hell. It's not
Right.
even like quite purgatory because you don't do anything to end up there. It just randomly happens and you can't really do anything to get out. It's
Like
just
what
like
you said, a procedural dungeon run.
yeah, it's just a hypothetical, like it's playing into the feeling of glitching and getting stuck in a video game, basically.
Exactly,
And it's like,
right.
there's no fairness in it. There's
Right.
not, it's just like, that really sucks if that happens to you.
Right.
And so that's why it kind of caught on as like that's like a pretty abysmal. Can you imagine that? It's like, imagine being in like that monotonous, it's like such a mundane, mediocre sort of environment that could
Right,
be
right.
in any place, basically.
Yeah, because visually it's not that sexy, right? It's not like a dark, creepy place.
That's
but
what people-
the creep comes from.
Yeah.
Just the mundaneness of it, just like how bland it looks, right?
I've seen,
and so it started with a picture, right?
Yep.
Like that one picture, but then people started building upon it, right? They started adding stories to it, started adding myth and lore to it. Is that how it?
So that picture
expanded?
was posted. Someone else saved it. I mean, that picture had been floating around since the early 2000s. It's from a furniture store in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. But basically, yeah, they posted it with a caption, and that became a screenshot. And then like that screenshot floated around like everywhere as a meme around May of 2019. And I saw it. I was in middle school. I was aware of it. I didn't see it and immediately go, "Whoa! I need to make a series and a movie." And like
right.
that wouldn't have ever crossed my mind. It was more of a this is a random thing on the internet that is weirdly intriguing, and I can tell why people are interested in this, and I kind of want more of it, but there's nothing more to get because it's just an image and a caption. And then I moved on, and everyone else moved on, and we stopped hearing about the backrooms for the most part. And you would get an occasional reference to it here and there. You would get, memes. A character falls through the ground out of a TV, like Peter Griffin falls through the sidewalk and lands in the backrooms or something. And the punchline is just, wow, he's fucked. Pretty much. And it basically, like, people, I understand now, and I did kind of understand at the time, like, there were some groups on wikis and stuff writing, basically doing more with the notion of the backrooms, where it's like, what if there's sort of like a game-like level system to it? And again, like I don't mean to misrepresent like that side of the community, but it's in my understanding that's more of like a community-driven, sort of like the SCP Foundation, if people are aware of that. It's sort of like most anyone can add because there's no direct author and there's no claim to authorship of this thing. So It's just like the main lore that people would consider outside of my adaptation of Backrooms would be just kind of a miscellaneous collection of little entries that like many different people with many different views of the Backrooms have put together.
Right.
But it's somehow viewed as one coherent thing, even though it's definitely not.
Got it. So then you came into it.
Yeah.
And then tell us your contribution to the world.
I mean, I just wanted to, like, I didn't, in my mind, I wasn't thinking of like, these people are not getting the backrooms. I'm going to step in and show them out. It was not,
not like
so
that,
far.
for sure.
I was just into, like I was getting back
like
into
all
these.
great things in life, it's a discovery process, right? And you discovered it.
I was getting back into these liminal space photo compilations and stuff. And it was like, man, this is, I want to scratch this itch. I want to see what comes of this. And I went in Blender and I made environments that felt true to what the backrooms wanted to be and were trying to be. And I just kind of like moved the camera through, and it's like this is just a fun, relaxing project where I tried to evoke the feeling of this place, but in a video form rather than imagery. I didn't even like the opening thing was just like a thing I filmed after I did everything else. When I was like, it's like, okay, well, to make this a proper like film, like what's a way in? What's a quick, easy way in that just gets us out of the real world and into the rest of the short? And it's like, I just got my friends at school one day just to stand around, and they didn't really know what it was for exactly, and I just like. I was doing it on my phone, and I ran the whole thing through the VCR. So it, it doesn't look like iPhone footage really, but, and then I just like at the end of it, just make the camera go to the ground, and they're like, what was that? Why did you do that? And it's like I'll show you in a few days. And then it got posted, and it didn't do great for like the first 2 days. And then somehow, I guess like some shadow figure behind the scenes pulled a lever or something. Cause it suddenly started getting in the inboxes in the feeds of certain reaction YouTubers, and they started watching it, and then that made it like go nuts.
Wow.
And it went nuts, but pretty much immediately within the same day, because I'm neglecting to mention one kind of important part of this, I think, which is that I had this other story, and as you do, just another random story that I had in my head,
right?
For a little bit at the time. It wasn't defined exactly, but it was like enough of an engine there that it was like, I knew I wanted to explore it, didn't know how, like what the opportunity would be. And I realized backrooms could just totally like these two things could melt together. And then boom, there's like a very specific plot and structure that I can just start immediately. And I did. And so like within like a day of that first short, I started teasing this element with like the Async Research Institute, which makes it more of a sort of like a worn down, like a mystery techno thriller with supernatural elements like underneath. I'm not great with genre labels, but I would say that's kind of what it's become.
Right. So obviously it started very innocently, but then as you sort of like progress and the ideas came to you, like, oh, maybe I can put a supernatural spin to this.
Yeah, well, I think it's inherently supernatural. When I say supernatural, like my version of supernatural, I personally am really drawn to any, like I need my supernatural to feel like hard sci-fi usually.
Got it.
I like things to feel like nature. Like, I mean, like I was talking about with the backrooms. I think I personally, as a creative, struggle with things that promote an overly human view of existence and of life. And usually I'm biased towards things that feel like humans are incidental to nature in some way, rather than being like a driving factor to the world that we live in. Yeah. And letting like the laws of the universe be more, factors that resulted in our consciousness being the way it is and perceiving a sort of sense of importance being like derived from just happenstance and being essential to existing and living and procreating and stuff. So anyway, I feel like what I was excited about with that concept was being able to sort of get past like the initial, like, okay, we have a short about someone falling into the backrooms and it is a scary place. But I think it's like more intriguing than people give it credit for. Like, I think people do miss the mark sometimes with their own backrooms projects when they go for like a space where the lights get too dark, it gets too green. It's like scary. Like if it's trying to be like a dark haunted house or a dungeon, it just falls apart because that's not
right.
The original image is very bright and it's very like low contrast and kind of like faded looking.
So you're saying the key here is to not make it look like a horror movie.
Yeah, no, right? I think
like just the blandness, the simplicity, the fact that it feels like everyday life is what makes it kind of terrifying.
It's the context and the way it extrapolates pretty much infinitely. That's where the horror lies. It can't be in the inherent visual. It's the context that does it.
Right. Yes.
Though the visual is off-putting.
And can I ask you, so philosophically, do you think there is this concept of the fear of technology? Or obviously that's not the case because, you're obviously embracing technology in such a big way. But do you think, is that what you're speaking to some degree here? When you said, like you're sort of leaning to the more like the hard science of where, a lot of like the scary stuff is coming from?
Yeah. So I would say that the backrooms is a thing in the first place because, I would say one of the main anxieties it's reacting to, if not the main anxiety, is the sort of pervasive, I don't want to use the word anxiety again, the pervasive fear that with all the resources that we, I guess, at least in this part of the world where we have the resources and we have the connection of the internet, are feeling like is we have more information than ever. It's starting to mean less and less the more we get. Information is starting to get put through a blender and fed back to us in a way where the human race is now starting to role play as itself. It almost starts to seem a little bit.
We're trapped in the matrix.
A little bit. But I think that like gradually, and this is not like new, and I'm not saying anything like profound about this because I think we've known this for a while, but we've been like trending for a few centuries into like a spiral of industrialism that's causing, and it's not like malice, it's not like malicious by any means. I mean, like, yes, there are individual people that you could name and say they are malicious, and that's easy to do, but it's the fact that it's a natural phenomenon that arises in like every culture, and it's a systemic thing that is almost impossible to root out of our species. Yeah. And so there's these, obviously patterns beyond us that I try to engage with in a sympathetic way. And I think that like the backrooms is reacting to the fear of like, okay, we're kind of getting stuck in this monoculture, literally even in an architectural context where you are everywhere you go, like a drop ceiling is maybe not the most prevalent. It's not like everywhere in the world, but like at least in this part of the world, like drop ceilings are kind of a symbol of uniformity or
that's right.
Or I guess efficiency. They're pretty effective at what they do. They're not bad. I'm not criticizing the drop ceiling, but
they have
it's
functionality to them. But they're not the most interesting of forms.
It's the idea of spending all of existence in that place, in that non-space, basically, of like that in industrial environment that's...
It is purgatory to some degree.
It is. It's a purgatory that we built. It's not like a purgatory beyond humanity. It's like one that we're clearly pushing ourselves towards, but
we're building prisons for ourselves. That's essentially what it is. We're building prisons for our souls, if you will.
Yeah. It's like getting us further and further from what the human nervous system evolved to basically thrive on. And we're kind of getting past a place where, like, we evolved into our environments and then we changed the environments. And now I wouldn't be surprised if that's doing something to a lot of the subconscious. And just the general, energy and health of people. I know.
So can I ask you then, so a lot of these themes that you have in your head, did you feel like the back rooms, that was a good platform for you to explore other ideas that you have? So like what led to like subsequent, other shorts that came along, like in the back rooms world? Did you start going, I want to explore, other elements within this world? And then that basically what led you down like the series of them?
Yeah, I wanted to, largely express what I was just talking about a little bit. It was like a lot of it for me is just exploring these ideas myself, and I want a way to check myself and test myself. And if I can find a way to wrap up these, academic ideas in a creative package, then I can get creatively excited about it. And it's like medicine with the sugar, sort of, where I'm like internalizing these things and testing myself on these things, and not in like a true... There's no like this is not comparable at all to like an actual school experience. It's not what I'm trying to say with that. But for me, just as someone who enjoys learning and enjoys just knowing more about literally anything. I mean, it's kind of what the film is about in some ways, is like, that part of the brain that forces human beings into a state of curiosity.
So did you find when you started making, the series of these shorts that there were many people out there that shared the same interests as you, like, the people were fascinated about what you were doing and that wanted to see more of it? Mm-hmm. Is that what kind of forced you down that path? Or not forced, but, made you want to, go down and continue?
I was very aware that those people existed, and it was kind of the audience that I speak to is the audience that I'm also a part of, which I think is maybe why I've had a decent rhythm with them for as long as I have, which is like, I grew up watching, like web series and ARGs and like consuming that stuff, and not necessarily, when I say watching, just following, because sometimes it's not even something to watch. Sometimes it's you're visiting a web page and you're looking at the metadata of files shared on that page, and you get story information from that, or you're like a lot of the time you're actually paying attention to a YouTuber who's talking about and summarizing a series, because sometimes these series get so dense and complex and hard to follow that the real story, like a more entertaining story, is in the recap of it. So I kind of like engineered my stuff to work on a recap level, I think. And a lot of the stuff on YouTube has been exactly that. And I was amazed, like I was kind of losing my mind when the shorts first caught on, because it was like all the people I looked up to online were like suddenly talking about it. And for obvious reasons, that would be exciting, I think, for anyone in that position. But it was like,
can you mention who were some of these people?
Yeah, just like YouTube channels, like random people, Nexpo, Nightmind. I think it was like, I forget like a full list at the time, but it was like film theory.
That's so cool,
stuff.
Right? It was, like it must have been validated.
It was cool. It felt like it was very weird. It was bizarre. It was validating, but also like,
is this real?
But I guess it was just like seeing, like getting it through my teenage head that like, the world that I watch on a screen, and I know this is so obvious, and I knew it, but I didn't feel it, was like, I guess like when I was younger, like so many of the things that I looked up to artistically, sort of like above in some way. Like there's some inaccessible barrier there where it's like, you could never meet these people. You could never interact with this brand or this fictional world in any meaningful way.
It's like, felt like it's in a different world.
You can do fan art, but like you don't get up there. And it's like,
so here with this, you actually have the opportunity to break through, and that's kind of what you did, right?
And it happened in a very casual way with no fanfare. I mean, it was exciting, but it's very simple. And I was like, oh, this is what it is. This is how it feels.
That's usually how it always works.
I know.
When you least expect it, that's when good stuff happens, right? You just do what you do, be passionate about what you want to do. And like I've always said, like I say that to sort with young filmmakers like yourself, and anyone out there who asks me for advice, I just say, just make your movies, just do it. And if you do something great, people will discover it. Especially with technology that we have today, right? Like YouTube. I mean, like there's so many platforms out there that you can just put it out there. Go shoot something for no money. You don't need money. You can shoot anything with your phone these days, right? You don't need a special cameras like I had to have when I was growing up, making these little shorts. So just go make something and put it out. They can be anything, and you're bound to find fans. And that fandom it doesn't matter how small they are, how big they are. It helps to flame the creativity in you, and it makes you want to do more. Yeah. And so, and I think that's kind of basically what happened for you, right?
I mean, I continued doing, I did a few different series on YouTube, and I've been doing YouTube all the way up until things became hot enough on this film that we were good to go, and I was able to jump over to full time on this.
Can I ask you, how many shorts did you make of the Backroom series?
I don't know the number. It's like 3 hours or so currently of it.
Okay.
So it's enough of, it's like, there's like a bit where it's, like the async has an arc, and then there's a few, like there's like 3 videos that aren't from that perspective, but are kind of like the first short. Where
so then, okay, I need to ask this. At what point during any of this process did you eventually say to yourself or thought to yourself that, hey, one day I could potentially turn this into a feature film?
Well, I mean, it was, I put out those shorts in January of 2022, or I started doing it. The first short went out in January 7th. It was like less than a month later that I started getting my first emails from anyone in the industry. I had no interaction with anyone in the industry ever up like prior to that point. So I was caught off guard. I was very cautious and paranoid. Because I was like, I've grown up seeing just like so many beloved IP just get torn to shreds by, random suits in the industry who grab an IP, take it, pulverize it by giving it to some writer who knows nothing about the property, and then boom, it's dead, and everyone hates the movie. And it was, not maybe a worthwhile venture. So I was like cautious of that. I had that in my head, and was like assuming, okay, if I don't find something really helpful, that's what it's going to be. So I met with a lot of people, and it was like, it turned into like no meetings ever. And then suddenly in February, I think every single day, every weekday had like 3 meetings, like generals with.
So it really happened that quickly?
Almost instantly. It was like insane. A binary, like it switched on suddenly.
That's incredible.
And Atomic Monster was one of the first, or it was like within the first, I think it was like the second week of that probably.
Right.
And then I met with 21 Laps as well. And I did I remember being conflicted, and I forget the exact order of things, but then there was, you guys came together.
Yeah.
And then I talked to all of you guys together, and that was sort of like, oh, you guys solved the conundrum I was having, because I liked Atomic and I liked 21, and then boom, they decided they want to do the thing together. So
yeah. No, I mean, listen, we credit to you, because we saw the potential in it, and we felt like we wanted to work with you. We like we saw like the kind of brain that you have, the kind of creativity that you have, and we definitely saw the potential that you have to kind of take this project and make it something bigger, right? Like kind of break it into the feature world, and so between us at Atomic Monster and 21 Labs, we're like, let's collaborate, and the more the merrier.
Thank you for
doing
that.
We can do with this, yeah. So, so I'm glad to hear from your perspective how all that came together.
I mean, like basically, like I was thinking under the terms of just like, there are unknowns everywhere, so I'm just going to make sure I don't do anything without like quadruple checking it. And so I was very thorough about like, beginning a process with you guys. And it was just I felt it was very positive, and I felt like it was what I was looking for. And
that's cool.
What I was looking for and was really like, Backrooms on YouTube is very creatively fulfilling for me, and I will do it. I will do more in the future, and I'm not like leaving YouTube by any means. But
no, that's great.
But it is limited. Like it came about because I guess like what you were saying a moment ago with, the accessibility of YouTube and filmmaking and whatnot, is that like, I found when maybe what I would advise, although I don't feel like I'm quite at a place to give advice yet. I maybe should let this film come out and then like wait a year or two before I start saying anything.
No, man, you can always give advice. I feel like in the short period of time, you've experienced a lot.
Yeah,
right. So you can speak to your own experience.
I can give anecdotes, and I can give
exactly,
my
and then people can kind of like latch onto whatever fits.
Because almost the first thing I would say is like the thing that I've learned the most is like what worked for one person. Like don't expect it to work for you in a way, unless it's like a universal truth or something. Like it's kind of like it feels like the most simple thing you do have to follow is I think what I managed to do, whether or not I realized it with the backroom stuff and with what I was doing on YouTube, is like I found a rough thing that I could achieve. It's like, what can I do with free software on a laptop in Blender and a bit of After Effects touch up? Like, what can I do there with no extra anything, no live action shooting, no actors, no like what, and just me behind a microphone. Like, what can I do there? And then if I just keep working on that, refining that until it becomes like the best version of itself, it becomes like a unique product that, I just said, cut that. I just said product. Oh my God.
Dude,
it's eating me. I mean, this is what happens when I go to LA.
Yeah.
I absorb the language.
This is how it starts, my friend.
I know.
You've been in this business for one movie, and now, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah, this is why I'm going to the woods after. I'd say it.
Listen, like, this is all great stuff to have.
Because I have to take it to market, and we had to make this movie. So objectively, it is a product.
Yeah. I mean,
it's an item.
Listen,
it's an item
when
that
there's
has
so much money involved, like, listen, as artistic as we want to be, as much of like auteurs as we want to be, we have to think about, like the studios that are financing our movies, the investors that are financing our movies, and we do kind of have to treat it, to some degree with that respect. And the key here is, for someone like myself who's been doing this for a while now, is like, how do you somewhat appease what the investors are looking for, but yet making it your own? So every movie that you make should be personal to you. Like, it doesn't matter how commercial it is, like the big filmmakers that I truly respect, or filmmakers, small filmmakers as well, but from the likes of Steven Spielberg to Tim Burton to whomever, right? They're able to play in that commercial world, but yet every movie is super, super personal to them. And that is how I approach with all my movies. And I think that's who you are as well. I feel like whatever movies you make here onwards, everything would be highly important for you. Every film you make will speak to you on some level that you want to talk about. That's good to have. So you just got to be mindful. As a director now, making these kind of movies, you kind of have to wear two hats, right?
Yeah. What I feel is like, again, going back to like, because I do get full creative satisfaction out of doing stuff on YouTube. It is equal to what I do here. There's almost no difference. It's just it's a bit of a different process, and I socialize a lot more when working like I just did on Backrooms. But I like, in terms of fulfillment, it's identical. And I do make a living off of YouTube. Like, it's I don't need much. I have a desk and I have a laptop.
That's amazing.
I stand in an empty room at my desk.
There's something I want to ask before we get further down here, okay? Because this is so great to kind of talk about, the history and how you started all this. Obviously you started very young doing all this stuff, right? Your parents, what do they think about all of this? When you were just starting out, and then eventually now you're making your first feature film in Hollywood. How do they feel? They must be super proud, and they must feel, like, I don't know, it must be surreal for them as well to see, the trajectory and the journey that their son have taken.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for them, but I would. They are proud, and they're. I mean, my parents are both really great people, and have obviously like
they've been very supportive.
They've been so supportive at like every point in my life, and have always like helped this come about in a way, like by not doing it, like just by not being in the way. I think is like you can be too hands on and you can be too hands off, and I think they were just like
they found the right balance.
Yeah. And like they get what's going on, and they like they're not in the industry, so it's not like they get it. But
where do you live? Where do they live? Where do you live?
Me and all of them. We live in Northern California, like Sonoma County, like up there.
Oh, okay, all right, that's where you're from. Okay,
yeah, like Sonoma, Marin.
Right,
and I, like they get it, and like I talk to them like once a week or so. Like I'll call them individually and talk to my parents and try to talk to my younger brother. And it's been hard on this film just because of how busy it's been to like stay in contact with everyone in my life.
Yeah. When you're making a movie, you're pretty much isolated from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
From whatever happens.
I don't mind. I usually am this way. Like, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's
for people like us, it's actually not a bad thing.
No, it works quite well. It's been like 10% more than I'm maybe used to. So it's been a little more on the intense side. But like again, I'm here for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they I try to loop them in, and they're going to be coming to the premiere when we do that next week, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun on that front. And they're familiar with the film. Like I was showing them everything we were doing as we were building up to this, and so and my dad's always like on YouTube looking at like reaction videos to my stuff, and he's constantly like he knows everything about.
That's what they should be doing as parents.
Yeah.
So okay, I want to talk about your feature film experience, right? So you've transitioned from these shorts into the process into making a feature film through this pretty big infrastructure, right? Of making this feature with, a proper film crew. Up until now, you've pretty much done everything yourself, right?
Yeah, most
and,
things.
and your actors are your friends, but now you're moving into the super big world
Yeah.
and into the big league, so to speak. And you're working with professional crew, professional cast and actors, what was that like? What was it like for you at the very start of that initial process? Was it overwhelming, or did you fully embrace it, or was it a little bit of everything?
So unlike some things that I've mentioned in our conversation, like that wasn't abrupt. Like there was a very gentle lead into that made sense over a good period. And so, I went up to Vancouver to do a test shoot in April. So that would have just happened over a year ago. And that was my first time working with a crew that is not like my personal friends from like high school or something. And so that I think I had questions in my head, but I think it was like easy enough because it was a skeleton crew. It was pretty small, and we were doing like a very minimal lean test shoot.
Right.
And I think there was something I found, which was like, I had it in my head wondering, all these notions of what a director has to be and what I have to be facilitating. What do I not know? I'm assuming there's a million things I do not know, and I'm thinking of all the ways that could poison the process. But what I found
you don't know could be a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Or you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, but exactly. Like I don't know what I don't know, so like I'm like doing what I can, but I'm realizing like as I'm getting there and we're starting, and it's like wait, that's all you can. That's all anyone can do. That's like literally what I go here. I know what I want. I don't know why I'm overthinking that part. I just need to tell the people around me what I want in a concise manner and explain why we want it so they can also be personally motivated to achieve that thing. And then we're just doing that in a few different ways. And then the day's done and we got what we wanted, and boom. And then we do it again. And like, I guess I think I did overthink it up front. And again, that was just the test shoot. So it was like a bit of I'll jump to when we were going to day one. It was the same kind of thoughts coming back again. It was like, okay, that was small before. Like, what if it's going to be so many people now that I haven't met? Like during pre-production, I got to work with all these department heads, and
right.
You're saying like how working with all the actors are my friends before, like I would say everyone that I worked with at that point, by the time we went to camera, were my friends now. And like,
right. That's great.
It's
cool.
Like the cast and crew and everyone is like, it was a very friendly vibe across the board.
Good. Yeah. So it was a collaborative experience for you. So you felt like, what you were asking for, people kind of step up and kind of help to deliver the vision of what you were going after, right?
So we went to when I went up to Vancouver and we got greenlit a few days into. We had like a few days of prep, and then we needed to get greenlit before we could continue. And but when that was happening, I was meeting all the heads of all the departments, and we had kind of met before a little bit. They all know each other and they're all friends, and it's like part of like a great group that sort of Chris, the producer up in Vancouver, who I work closely with, and has sort of like really helped bring together over a good period of time. And so they're all very tightly knit, and it's pretty great up there. So
just to clarify, you found the pre-production process of planning the movie and kind of like laying it out and talking to the crew and, talking to producers and locations and sets and stuff like that. You found all that pretty smoothly, the actual process?
It was smoothly. I mean, it wasn't easy, but it was smooth.
Nothing's easy.
We were making
films.
Yeah, it was time consuming and like used all my brain power each day, but was like, we got through it. And I enjoyed it.
Did you find that at any time that the sort of the bigger machination of filmmaking that kind of went against how you used to do things?
No.
Okay, good.
No, it felt like an identical scaling of what I normally do.
That's great.
Like the sets, when I get there, I mean, I brought my computer with me, like my laptop, and like all the sets that we built, like because our production office was on the soundstage, or like right outside of it, and so we had these 4 big stages that we could build on. And we were working out, like our construction budget at the time and everything. And in the script, we were iterating on the script as we were going through prep and stuff. So some things were changing, and so everything was changing a little bit. And it's too hard to describe the exact order in which things changed. Like one change would retroactively affect the thing that changed that change and whatnot. But like the sets are all like I made them all in Blender. Like I designed all the sets, and it's pretty much one for one for what we have in the movie. Like those all exist in the Blender files, and I would cross-reference and talk with Jeremy Cox, the DP I worked with, who's
Right.
great. And I would kind of I was showing him how to use a bit of Blender so we could send files back and forth if he wanted to tweak a few things to, on
That's
the day,
really
sort of
cool.
build the sets to accommodate for shots that we wanted, because we were shot listing in Blender as well.
So basically, you were doing that like previs, right?
Yeah,
That's
it was
prevising.
previs on everything.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So you pretty much previs the whole movie.
That's what I
out.
mean when I say I need the variable control up front, so I know
Yeah.
I like knowing every single bit of what we're going to do and let everything be deliberate.
Your process and the way your mind works, where you need to be in control, you need to kind of be prepared, really helps with, as you can see, the filmmaking process, right? There's nothing worse for a director on a film set, or there's nothing worse for a film crew in a production is a director that is not prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. If they don't know what they want, they don't know how to achieve it, that's really draining on a production.
Mm-hmm.
And so someone like you, it's a breath of fresh air to come in so prepared, knowing exactly the world, what they want the characters to be, what they want the shot, the scenes to feel like. That goes a long way. And I think, I think that helps with why the transition for you was kind of pretty smooth going.
Yeah, I would also then just sing the praises of all the people we worked with, because everyone in all of the departments are genuinely incredibly nice, really productive, and really focused people. That's
amazing.
Obviously
That's
would
great.
give them infinite credit on this.
Yeah.
Really the sets I made them in Blender, but even the construction crew who they were tirelessly going at this thing, because it's 30,000 square feet of backgrounds we built.
It's incredible. The set looks amazing. Yeah,
it looked really cool.
But again, the crew really wants to help you bring your vision to life.
Yeah.
Right. And so we trusted you because this movie is it is an auteur-driven film, and so it's kind of great that that everyone trusted you and wants to help you bring all that to fruition.
Yeah,
and it looks amazing.
Very generous of you guys.
Hey man, no, seriously, yeah, we take our lead from someone like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to talk about what was it like, collaborating with Osgood.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, how was he like?
It was great.
With on this.
Yeah, so it was before it was after the test shoot. It was before we went to get greenlit, before we went up to Vancouver for the long stay, for the long haul, and I met Oz because Chris works closely with Oz, and Oz is basically at every step of the way. I mean,
Oz is a producer, just to explain.
Yeah, he's a producer.
Osgood Perkins is a producer. He's a director in his own right as well, but he's a producer here on the film with us.
Yeah, he was writing his next film while we were in prep on this, and so he'd be just hovering around the entire time, just hanging out and
like a big brother, to some degree, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And he's great, and we would awesome. I know when I first got there, it was we would just every Friday we would just go to a little theater and watch a movie that would help for the film. It was I remember when we first got there, we just went and rented out a theater and just watched 2001 on a big screen, which was a lot of fun. But then we basically he was very helpful, I think, because there's a certain level of change and iteration that went on with the script and getting it right for the project that I've put out online over the years, and people are so specific about I think maybe that's not always taken into account. Actually, I know it's not taken into account because it's been something I've had to sort of fight for a little bit along the way in a healthy manner. It's reasonable why it wouldn't be considered, because it's a bit insane when I say it out loud, but because it's a very it's not just a fan base thing. It's not my fan base. It's not a group of people. It's kind of a prevalent mindset that has come from, I think, my generation who has grown up with the internet, a lot of the same YouTubers and a lot of the same mentalities around media deconstruction. And there's been this notion that when it comes to internet driven horror, especially horror is the main target for this, but anything that's mysterious or horror driven and comes from the internet is okay, so that means it's got to be riddled with Easter eggs, and those Easter eggs are crucial to the plot. And the true story is lying under the surface. There's a meta level to this thing. There's you can zoom in all these things. There's the expectation is there's a lot of rich, really specific information. And I knew that because I'm a part of that group of people who think that, and I'm used to projects that give me that level of engagement and depth and growing up with that. So when I'm making the Backrooms web series, I'm designing it as such. And when, a object or like a light switch or a pillar or something moves over a few feet to the right, it's not because we had to move it there because of like some logistical thing, or like we had to rebuild the set and there was a pillar there, so we had to account for like a slight shift. It's like, no, it has to be because of a narrative reason, because the building shifted in some way, and that means something that will get addressed later on. So people can kind of catch things like that.
Right.
And so I made it's not a mistake. I love it to death, but it's like I made the deliberate decision to let audiences know that those little things aren't random and that they can expect anything they catch. Like it puts them on guard that like there could be a lot of things they don't know are important until later.
Right. And so sometimes you need multiple viewings to catch little
like
Easter eggs here.
The stuff I make on YouTube is built to be, and I would say even the movie is built to be paused and analyzed. It's not meant to. It's inherently made for that.
That is nuts.
And I think that trying to bring that to this level involves asking for a lot of things that seem unproductive to people who aren't from that space.
Trivial or weird even, right?
Yeah, it's like
why is he doing that? Yeah.
And we didn't win every battle because it's impossible, because we don't have the resources to paint out every tiny cable and conduit that aren't exactly from 1990, and like the fire sprinkler models aren't exactly the model that would have been used in this type of piping in this year and stuff. Like, and I know this is what I mean, is like, come on, guys! Like, give the film some slack, but I know my audience.
Listen, your IMDb page, you need to give the goof section something for them to write about, right?
Yeah. But anyway, I love him to death, and I think that that synchronizing everyone on that took a minute just to explain why we had to do it, but then we did a lot. We got a lot of mileage in that area.
So can I ask, so knowing you have to service a lot of that kind of thinking, and partially because that's who you are as well, did you was that a fine balance between that and a like a more traditional storytelling script that you guys had to write to get it out there? Because this is not just little vignettes of moments, right? Like you have to tell a pretty straightforward narrative to some degree, right? Like that has a start, at 0 mark, and has to end at an hour and a half or 2 hours into the movie, right? Was that a bit of a process for you?
No, I think like the YouTube series knew what it was, and it wasn't meant to be a substitute for something structurally similar to a feature film.
So you're saying as a feature, you approach it different to how you approach your shorts.
Definitely. I think like the shorts have their arcs. They're very vignette driven, like you said, where you get a lot of these pieces that, for people online, it makes sense to put these things together, and then the story comes through repeated viewing and stuff, or even one viewing you'll get it, but it's like maybe not appreciated to its fullest degree, because it's sort of like a more concept driven version of or a perspective into the story, where it's not quite the hope. I think I meant to say this earlier, but with the desire to do did I want to do a film with backgrounds? It was like, yes, and the goal would have been to sort of get the foot in the door to, get audiences who are not up to speed on my version of the backrooms, and who are not, quite. I think the idea would have been to make something that worked for my audience, that had direct continuity with what I've made, and people who've never heard of it.
Who, have no idea what it is.
And so it could be a first step that kind of does the same thing that first short did, in terms of sort of like opening the door to it. And then the real thing,
literally,
when I talk about having something in the ending that I want to reverse engineer from, or have that moment I really want to get to, it's like, there's so much stuff. I love every step along the way, but this is all driving in a direction where I would say the material that is planned and is written out is it goes outside the confines of the YouTube series, and it goes outside the confines of the film. These things lay inside a broader, tree of the narrative.
Right. Which leads me to your cast, right? This is the first set of, I would say, professional actors that you've worked with. And so what was it like working with Chiwetel and Renata?
I mean, it was...
and everyone else in the movie.
Yes, and everyone else. Yeah, everyone was great across the board. And I was saying earlier about them being my friends. I do mean that. They're lovely, lovely people. And I think it was like in the case of when we were casting Clark, and it's Chiwetel's I had seen some of his stuff, the stuff he's directed, and I like his brain. I was very curious about talking to him, and
incredible actor.
And I did. He's great. They're both great. Yeah. But I met with him first. He was the first person that we were really going out to, and I mean, he was the first and only person we spoke to about the character, because
That's fantastic,
I
yes.
really got it in my head that like after that conversation I had with him and seeing the things he was curious about with the project and with the backrooms in general, and just the general understanding of culturally what the backrooms is, where it comes from, and what it needs to achieve to be a meaningful addition to anything. It's just like, okay, so he gets it, and he got a curiosity that's I found this with Renata very much so as well, is like I like when I can tell they've got like the people I'm working with have like a personal curiosity they're trying to fulfill with this thing, like some reason that they're trying to find beyond just like my agent set this up and I want to let's do a horror film. It's like not that at all. It was very much like there was something almost spiritual or profound about it.
Yeah, they're bringing their personal life and story into the character, which is what you always want.
That's exactly what you want. And I just found that I enjoyed the conversations we were having. I guess it's like given the level of interiority needed for like some of the stuff with Renata, and I knew they would be fits for like the pieces we needed them to fulfill. And then obviously once we actually went to production, it was mostly the case of they made my job supremely easy,
right?
but it was a good case of just like they would hang out like behind the camera. They wouldn't go off. They would be around and just like chat with people, and it was like very good natured and fun. And I think it helped, like, again, having those sets that were like there and it wasn't CG, and you could like walk through them and not see the blue screens and not see, you could like walk through several rooms before you realize you're on a set.
That's really cool.
And so it's like I was trying to provide as like answers to any question they could possibly have, and know where the walls are, and basically let things still be fluid, while like very strictly knowing what can and can't happen, so that we stay on a very tight course narratively, so we arrive at the right spot.
That's really cool, yeah. And they, you basically use their characters as a way into the world, especially for people that are not familiar with this world. And they basically, they play everyday people, right, that get caught in this crazy, surreal backroom, liminal space horror, so to speak, right? And they really kind of captured the idea that these two guys, two people that are like stumbling into this supernatural world and not knowing what is going on, and they have to. And the more they dig into it, the more they discover how this particular space reflects themselves, right? Their personality. And I think that's really great, between yourself and the screenwriter, what you guys shape and create in terms of a story to try and bring in audiences that are not familiar with this particular world.
Yeah, I'm glad it came through in that way. Definitely, like that was a pretty huge focus, and I think it's kind of crucial to the project. So we don't have like a insane. It's definitely more of a scenario where the risk would be putting too much lore and information into a single film, rather than trying to scale up like a short that's not built for a feature into something larger. So it was like, and so I think we trimmed out like, or rather focused on the right most foundational elements of what made the idea work, the backrooms as a general idea, and found a way in that does not involve or necessitate a understanding of like where this YouTube series goes, but it still relates to it in some way.
One of the things I do want to talk to you about is, your shorts were made for YouTube. And so people generally, for the most part, watched it on their iPhones, on their computer, on their iPads. But now here you are making a theatrical version of the feature film, right? And so the feature film version for the theatrical big screen experience. How do you feel about that, firstly? And how do you think that would translate from the tiny little screen to freaking IMAX? We all make movies in computer these days. It doesn't matter what the platform is, right?
Yeah, there's so much more polish that goes into this, and like we do like billion iterations of each shot and like constantly refining and all that. But like I would say that this film, being able to, and this is what I wanted from the beginning with this whole process, the thing that I hope to get out of this was being able to, I fulfilled the niche of the found footage work online because that's what I could do by myself. But what I wanted to be able to do is be able to have stuff that got out of that and was more human centric and more getting into the character work that could be portrayed by actual human actors who like were there for that. And, in this film, we finally had the resources to attack the concept of the backrooms through that lens, which has never happened before. And I think we get to see like, a far more personal and intimate version of this story, which sort of like, I would say comes second in the conversation of like people understand the backrooms like enough online at this point that it's like, and now it's like this is the next or this is the slight advancement of the idea, and we're seeing a slightly more I'd say a slightly more thoughtful and elevated version of that gets us to a place where we actually get to have a distinct relationship between individuals and the environment, rather than letting the relationship be largely between, yes, there's a character always behind the camera, but more often than not, audiences come away with a feeling of like, I'm kind of the person behind, like they kind of relate to the person behind the camera in a way that is like almost more like playing a game or watching a game playthrough or something, which is not something I deliberately cater to. I just have observed that's something that happens, and now they can see the faces. It's so simple, but like actually being able to give the time to these characters in a more direct way and let their context in life, in the world, outside of their relationship with the backrooms, giving that weight, I think will go a long way.
Do you feel that what you're saying here now translate to the big screen experience?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, it's like it finally gives emotional context. Like it allows everything that we build with these human beings, like then is transposed when they interact with the backrooms and gives the backrooms of inherently, without the backrooms having to, it's the same location. That stays pretty much unchanged.
Right.
That whole element, the complex.
But now it's larger than life.
because of the human element, because of how it's framed through the eyes of these people who you can relate to, which you didn't have before. So yeah, I'd say that's probably and there's also just some cool set pieces. So I'm excited to show those.
Some big set pieces, that you can kind of like, I guess, how you were saying, you were talking about like just, the fans or, the people from the world, just seeing little details there, right?
Yeah.
Details in the world. So like, I guess, when it's blown up so huge, big, you can actually pick up little things that you may not actually experience or have noticed on your phone or on your computer, right? So
my audience would notice anything and everying, but yes,
okay. But that's what you're saying.
Undoubtedly, there is stuff, and it's great because you can't pause it in the theater. So for a select time, you'll maybe have to watch it a couple times to find everything that's in there, because there's a lot.
That's cool. Well, Kane, this has been amazing, man.
It's been amazing.
Thank you, dude. Thank you for having a chat with me about this. I love the movie. I think you guys all did a fantastic job. The movie is great, and I really think you captured the spirit of what you did with the shorts. And here we have the feature film version. And so you must be excited to have people out there see this movie when it finally comes out.
I'm tremendously excited, dude. Like, thank you so much for just supporting this for the time you have. And it's like we're talking like how this happened, but you've been around supporting this since the beginning, like literally the first month that any of this was happening. We came into contact, and it's just been a great partnership.
Oh, good, man. Okay, so, this has been awesome.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, man.
This is lovely.